Alright, we have the Veterans Comeback by Matthew LaPierre and
Lucas Leadbetter.
so let's get into it. A little technical difficulty. And first we have the intro, and we are comparing La Casa to The Lone Survivor. The movies La Casa and Lone Survivor are quite different in terms of their subject matter, style, and themes. La Casa is a Spanish film from 1966, directed by Carlos Suara. The movie follows a group of friends who go on a hunting trip in the countryside, only to find themselves becoming increasingly aggressive and violent towards each other as they struggle to survive. The film is a stark critique of toxic masculinity and explores themes of power dynamics, aggression, and the human instinct for violence. On the other hand, Lone Survivor is an American war film from 2013, directed by Peter Berg, based on a true story of a failed mission by a team of Navy SEALs in Afghanistan in 2005. The the film follows the team as they attempt to capture a high-level Taliban leader, but are ambushed and forced to fight for survival against overwhelming odds. Um, the movie is a tribute to the bravery and sacrifice of the soldiers who fought in war, explores themes of brotherhood, heroism, and the cost of war. In summary, while both Wakaza and One Survivor deal with the themes of survival, they approach the topic from very different angles. Wakaza focuses on the darker side of human nature and how it can manifest in times of crisis, while Lone Survivor celebrates the bravery and resilience of the soldiers who face extreme danger in service to their country. And we'll be talking about first we'll be talking about Wakaza, and then we'll be talking about Lone Survivor, and then kind of the comparisons between them. And first we have is the Wakaza, the context of it. It's a Spanish film directed by Carlos Suara, released in 1966. It's set during the Spanish Civil War and tells the story of three friends who go on a hunting trip in the woods. The friends are Paco, Luis, and Enrique, and they're all on different sides of the conflict. Paco is a member of the nationalist faction, which is led by General Francisco Franco. Luis is a Republican sympathizer, and Enrique is a neutral outsider who does not take sides in the war. Despite their political differences, the three friends are able to enjoy property and the beautiful scenery of the countryside. However, as the hunting trip progresses, tensions rise between the friends and the political differences begin to surface. Um, Paco becomes increasingly aggressive and starts to taunt Luis about his political beliefs, leading to a physical altercation between the two. Enrique tries to intervene and calm the situation, but ultimately the three friends turn on each other in a violent and tragic climax. The film is seen as a commentary on the futility of the Spanish Civil War and the damage that it caused to the country and its people. The characters' inability to overcome their political differences and find common ground ultimately leads to their downfall. And the film suggests that the violence and division caused by the war were ultimately pointless and destructive. And now going on to the characters of the movie Wakasa. First is Paco. Paco is one of the three main characters in the film Wakasa. He is a member of the national faction led by Franco and is portrayed as being aggressive and confrontational towards his friends. Throughout the film, Paco is shown to increasingly hostile towards Louise, the other main character who supports the opposing Republican faction. Paco mocks Louise's political beliefs and constantly seeks to provoke him. Despite the efforts of their mutual friend, Enrique to calm the situation, Paco and Luis engage in a physical altercation that becomes violent and ultimately leads to tragic consequences. Um, his role in the film can be seen as representing the destructive nature of visions and the way in which they can tear apart even close friendships. His aggression and unwillingness to see beyond his own political beliefs contribute to the escalating tension between the characters and ultimately lead to their downfall. Next is Louise. Luis is one of the three main characters in La Casa. He's portrayed as being a Republican sympathizer during the Spanish Civil War and one of the closest friends of Paco, who is on the opposing side. Throughout the film, Luis tries to avoid engaging in political discussions with Paco and instead focuses on enjoying the hunting trip. However, the tensions rise between Paco, as I was saying earlier, because Paco becomes aggressive towards Louise, representing the way in which political divisions can cause even close friendships, posing politically, ultimately leads to their downfall. And Lucy's inability to control Paco's aggression ultimately contributes to the outcome of the film. And then lastly, Enrique. He's also one of the main characters. He's the outsider in political conflict between Paco and Luis. He's portrayed as the neutral party. He just tries to keep peace between them. He serves as a meditator between them and trying to diffuse their arguments and keep their friendship intact. He is often the voice of reason, urging the characters to focus on their shared experiences and avoid getting caught up in the political differences. However, despite his efforts to maintain peace, Enrique is ultimately unable to prevent the escalating tensions between Paco and Luis from boiling over into violence. His role in the film can be seen as representing the tragic utility of trying to bridge political divisions during times of conflict, and the way in which well-intentioned efforts to prevent violence can ultimately prove futile. Next, we have the plot structure. The plot structure of the movie can be broken down into the following parts. First, the exposition. The movie begins with a group of middle-aged men living their hunting life in the countryside for a weekend of hunting and socializing. This is where the main characters are introduced and all their personalities and relationships to each other. Then it goes on to the rising action as the weekend progresses. Tensions rise among the group, men engage with conflicts and arguments, revealing their underlying jealousies and resentments. Then finally it hits the climax. The climax of the movie occurs when the group goes on a hunting trip and Paco is accidentally shot and killed by one of the other hunters. The group becomes frenzied and panicked, and the relationships with each other becomes even more strained. And then it goes into the following action, which is the men attempt to cover up the accidental shooting and avoid Paco's death. However, their guilt and fear continue to haunt them. Resolution, the movie ends with the surviving men returning to their daily lives with the knowledge that they will never be able to get what happened during the appropriate in the countryside. Overall, the plot explores themes of relocation, jealousy, and breakdown of social order. The story is a powerful commentary on the dangers of toxic masculinity and the consequences of violence. And then the audience of La Casa, the intended audience of the movie La Casa is likely to have been Spanish-speaking adults with an interest in art house or independent cinema. The film was released in 1966 during the Spanish New Wave, a period of cultural and artistic experimentation in Spanish cinema. The movie is also likely to appeal to audiences interested in exploring the darker side of human nature and the consequences of violence. The film's themes of toxic masculinity, jealousy, and social breakdown are relevant to a wide range of audiences, particularly those interested in social commentary and psychological drama. Given its critical acclaim and international success, La Casa also appeals to cinephiles and film enthusiasts interested in the history of Spanish cinema and the works of influential directors such as Carlos Suara. Overall, the intended audience is likely to be sophisticated and intellectually curious viewers with a taste of their challenging and thought-provoking cinema. During Franco's regime, the movie was made. So it was kind of like important to show like the Spanish Civil War and kind of like the comparisons between them. How I was talking about earlier, Paco and the UK, and and Luis, um, they all are like they all seem like such good friends in the beginning, and then by the end, it's like they're fighting, and that compares to kind of like Franco's regime, and the Spanish Civil War. Um, the metaphor of this um, is main metaphor in the movie Wakanda is related to the Spanish Civil War and the hunting expedition. The hunting party, consisting of three former comrades from the Republican side of Spanish Civil War, represents the fragmented and divided state of the Republican forces. The three characters who have not seen each other since the war ended are initially depicted as friendly and nostalgic towards their shared past. However, like I said, the trip progresses, tensions and resentments between them begin to surface. Um, and chaos of the war, with the hunters and the hunters representing the different tensions and ideologies of the conflict. The beautiful but desolate countryside through which the characters move symbolizes the devastation brought by the war, in the Spanish landscape and the people. Um, the movie scene that were, that we picked is the ending scene of the puzzle. It is a haunting and powerful conclusion to the film. It takes place after the explanation of pop out and the subsequent cover by the story actors. The scene shows the hunters returning to the victor's lives, but with a sense of guilt and unease that lingers through the events of the weekend. The final shot of the film for one of the hunters, Jack, um, and so it's a favorite film up in space. Um, and
So now we'll transition into the lone survivor context to it. The context is a 2013 American war film, as we mentioned, directed by Peter Berg, based on the nonfiction book of the same name as Marcus Luttrell. The movie tells and the narrating true story of a failed U.S. Navy SEAL mission to capture and kill Taliban leaders in Afghanistan. The context of the movie is rooted in the broader conflict of Afghanistan following the attacks on September 11th. In response to the attacks, the United States launched a military campaign in Afghanistan to oust the Taliban government, which was harbored the Al Qaeda terrorist organization responsible for the attacks. The war quickly became a prolonged conflict with the Taliban, mounting resilient insurgency against U.S. and allied forces. The specific operation depicted in Lone Survivor was known as Operation Red Wings, and it took place in 2005 in the mountains of eastern Afghanistan. The mission was intended to capture or kill Muhammad Saab, a high-ranking Taliban leader responsible for a series of deadly attacks against U.S. and coalition forces. The team of four Navy SEALs, including Marcus Luttrell, was inserted into the rugged terrain by helicopter, but quickly ran into trouble when they were discovered by local goat herders. The SEALs made the difficult decision to release the civilians rather than killing them, but this decision led to their location being compromised to the Taliban fighters. The SEALs then found themselves in a desperate firefight with a much larger Taliban force, resulting in the deaths of all but one member of the team. Luttrell was the lone survivor and was eventually rescued by U.S. forces after evading the enemies for several days. The context of Lone Survivor is therefore one of a brutal, prolonged war against the determined enemy, where even the most highly trained and equipped soldiers face tremendous danger and risk. The movie highlights the courage and sacrifice of the men and women who serve in the military, as well as the complex ethical and moral decisions that soldiers must make in the heat of battle. It also pays tribute to the brotherhood that develops among soldiers who must rely on each other to survive in the face of overwhelming adversity. And now we'll transition into focusing on the characters more, and we'll start with the American characters. Marcus Luttrell, as played by the famous actor Mark Wahlberg. He's the main character in The Lone Survivor and the Operation Red Wings. He is the Navy SEAL who served in Afghanistan, and he's on a mission to kill and capture or kill the Taliban leader. Next is Michael Murphy. He is the leader of the group of Marcus Luttrell's group, and he's also a Navy SEAL, and he's responsible for making critical decisions in the heat of battle. Danny Dietz, another member of the SEAL team. He is known for his humor and his charm, unfortunately not making it out alive. Matthew Axelson, kind of hard to pronounce his last name, also a Navy SEAL, and he was known for his highly skilled in marksmanship. And we'll transition into the Taliban members. Ahmed Saha is the Taliban leader that the team is after and responsible for killing many American soldiers. Gulab, not pictured. He is an Afghan villager who helps Marcus and provides shelter and protection when he's on the run from the Taliban. These main characters in Lone Survival and their roles and actions are crucial in the film's plot. The plot structure of Lone Survivor is based on a true story following a traditional 3-act structure. Act 1 was the setup. The first act of the film establishes the mission and the characters. The audience is introduced to Marcus Luttrell and his Navy SEAL team, who are sent on a mission to kill a high-ranking Taliban leader. The team is dropped off in the mountains of Afghanistan, and they begin their mission. Act 2 is the confrontation. The second act of the film is the main part of the story. The team encourages 2 shepherds after much deliberation. They decide to let them go. Unfortunately, the shepherds then alert the Taliban, and the team finds themselves under attack. They are vastly outnumbered, and the situation quickly becomes dire. The team is forced to fight for their lives, and they're soon separated from each other. Throughout the rest of the second act, the audience witnesses the brutal and intense battle that takes place as the team struggles to survive against the Taliban. Act 3, the third and final act, is the resolution. The third act of the film is the aftermath of the battle. Marcus Luttrell, the main character, as we mentioned, the only survivor, he is forced to evade the Taliban while injured and on the run. Eventually, he is discovered by a group of Afghan villagers who take him in and protect him from the Taliban. In the end, Marcus is rescued by American forces, and he is reunited with his family. However, the film ends in a somber note as the audience is reminded of the high cost of war and the sacrifices that were made by Marcus and his team. The intended audience of Lone Survival is likely adult viewers because it's kind of intense, who are also interested in war movies, action films, and stories based on true events. The film is rated R for intense combat sequences and language, which means it's not suitable for children or younger audiences. The movie may also appeal to those interested in military history, the Navy SEALs, or the ongoing conflict in Afghanistan. However, the film's themes of bravery, sacrifice, and cost of war also resonate with a wider audience beyond those interested in the military or action genres. Overall, Lone Survivor is a narrowing and emotional film that seeks to honor the sacrifices made by men and women who serve in the military. Scenes were chosen to compare. Still the slide. The scene in Lone Survivor when Marcus Luttrell is the only one left is a pivotal moment in the film. It is the climax of the story where the audience is on the edge of their seats, wondering if Marcus will survive or not. After being separated from his team during the intense fight with the Taliban, Marcus finds himself brutally injured and alone in the mountains of Afghanistan. He is surrounded by enemy forces. His radio is damaged, making it impossible for him to call for help. The scene is intense and emotionally charged as Marcus is shown struggling to stay alive while being hunted down by the Taliban. Overall, the scene is a powerful moment in the film that underscores the harsh realities of war and sacrifices that soldiers like Marcus make for their country. It is a tribute to the bravery and resilience of human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds.
And we have the veterans of war. So the three characters in the La Casa are all veterans of war, and that's a comparison. We wanted to compare that to Lone Survivor because um the only survivor in Lone Survivor, Marcus Luttrell, he is after this war mission that he was sent on becomes a veteran of war, and I think that's a huge comparison. And another comparison is just like how this war is taking place in Afghanistan in like 2005, and on the other hand, La Casa is supposed to be about the Spanish Civil War when it's taking place in like the 1930s. And so it just goes to show that throughout history, there will always be war, and yes.
Yeah, we kind of already compared the two just between the fighting and the war. Knowing what the group of four Navy SEALs went through compared to the three main characters, especially in the La Casa film, there of course will be many similarities just because the hunting aspect of it.
Another comparison that you can make to the two films is that yeah, when they're Rotrell, the lone survivor character, when he's done with the war, it's just taken such a big toll on his mental and physical health, and that relates to La Casa because after they accidentally kill Paco, um, they just have taken such a big toll on their mental health and physical health, and I just like contemplating their lives with it. And then this is our works cited page about the resources we used, and the question.
After briefly discussing it in our presentation, how do you think the separate films were affected by the respective audiences? Two different, completely different eras, two different places in the world. Just kind of opening up that question. Would the plot of the films be different if they were in a different era, time period? And I'd even like to add, or a different place in the world. Um, who do you think played the biggest role in the film La Casa, Luis Enrique or Paco, and why? Thank you for
Thank
listening.
you for listening.